Have you ever stopped to think about what separates an ordinary person from an absolute legend? It's not talent. It's not luck. It's something much deeper, and Lionel Messi's story will prove it to you once and for all. Because before becoming the greatest player football has ever seen, he was just a frail boy, with a body that wouldn't grow and a dream that seemed too big to fit into reality. Throughout this video, you'll follow each stage of this extraordinary journey, from playing soccer in the streets of Rosario to the tears of joy at a World Cup final. You'll understand how a boy who barely spoke to his friends became the most respected name on the planet. And more than that, you'll discover what Messi's journey can teach us about overcoming challenges, purpose, and the art of never giving up on what you love most. There's no story like this in football, so get comfortable, because this story will captivate you from beginning to end, and I guarantee you'll leave here seeing life in a different way. It all begins in a city called Rosario, in the interior of Argentina, where a restless boy named Lionel Messi learned first and foremost that football is not a sport, it's a language. At 6 years old, he was already at Newell's Old Boys, the city's club, enchanting everyone lucky enough to see him play. And look, we're not talking about a talented child. We're talking about a phenomenon who seemed to have been born with the ball glued to his foot. Back then, while most kids were still learning how to kick properly, little Messi was already racking up an absurd number of goals for the club's youth team. He scored over 500 goals during his time in the youth ranks, a number that startled even the most experienced coaches. To give you an idea, that's the kind of statistic that makes anyone stop and wonder if it's real or if someone exaggerated the count. What few realize is that Rosario wasn't just Messi's birthplace. It was the school where he learned what no coach can teach in a classroom. The hunger to play, the drive to win, and the pure love for football were cultivated there, in the streets and simple fields of the city. That humble environment was the fuel that fed a flame that the whole world would see shine decades later. Imagine being 10 years old, the best in your class at what you love most, and suddenly discovering that your own body is working against you. That's exactly what happened to Lionel Messi when he was diagnosed with a hormonal deficiency, a condition that prevented his body from growing at a normal rate. For a child who lived for football, that news was like a bucket of cold water in the middle of a Rosario summer. The treatment existed, but it was far too expensive for a simple family in Argentina to afford. It involved daily injections of growth hormone costing around $90 a month, an amount that seemed impossible to raise every month without fail. Messi's family did what they could, seeking support from Newell's Old Boys and even bigger clubs, but doors kept closing one after another, as if fate were testing how far that boy was willing to go. What's impressive about this part of the story is that Messi never let the diagnosis become an excuse. He kept training, kept playing, kept being the best player on the field, even while carrying that invisible weight. This attitude in the face of adversity says a lot about the character he was developing in those years, long before any Ballon d'Or or World Cup appeared on the horizon. And it was precisely this combination of undeniable talent and delicate situation that reached the ears of the right people on the other side of the Atlantic. Because when one door closes, sometimes what it opens on the other side is something much bigger than anyone could imagine, and the next chapter in Messi's life is the most concrete proof of that. Think about it. How would you react if someone told you that the contract that would change your life forever was signed on a paper napkin? Well, that's exactly how the most important chapter in Lionel Messi's story with Barcelona begins. The director of the Catalan club's first team was so impressed with what he saw in that Argentinian boy that he didn't want to waste time looking for paper, grabbed the napkin that was on the table, and closed the deal right there. It's the kind of scene that seems like a movie script, but it really happened. Barcelona didn't just bring Messi to play football, they also brought the promise to cover all the costs of his hormonal deficiency treatment, which his family couldn't afford in Argentina. That was much more than a sports contract. It was a pact of trust between a giant club and a boy who had barely reached adolescence. And that's how Messi was introduced to La Masia, Barca's famous youth academy, which had already produced other great players and was about to welcome the greatest of them all. La Masia wasn't just a training center. It was a school of life where young people from all over the world learned to play football the right way, with intelligence, teamwork, and great technique. For Messi, that environment represented both a gigantic opportunity and an enormous challenge, since he was far from home, in a different culture, with a language he didn't yet master. But as always, the football field was the place where all barriers disappeared. The hormone treatment was successfully completed when Messi turned 14, and Barcelona honored every word of that agreement written on a napkin. The body that had previously not grown began to respond, and the player the world would come to know was being shaped day by day on the pitches of Catalonia. Arriving in a different country at less than 13 years old, without speaking the language properly and far from everything you know, is difficult for anyone. Now imagine doing that as a shy child to the point that your own classmates thought you were mute. That was the reality Lionel Messi faced in his early days in Spain, a silent solitude that contrasted absurdly with the explosion he produced every time he touched a ball. Off the field, he almost didn't exist. On it, it was impossible to ignore him. The difficulties weren't just emotional. Due to a transfer dispute with Newell's Old Boys, Messi faced serious restrictions that limited his participation in official matches for Barcelona. In practice, he could only play in friendlies and the Catalan Championship, which was a tremendous injustice for a player of that level. It was like having a Ferrari in the garage and only being able to use it for laps around the block, a frustrating situation that tested the patience of everyone around him. What saved Messi during that period was exactly what had always saved him throughout his life: football. Every time he stepped onto the field, even with all the bureaucratic limitations, it was as if the world regained its meaning. His teammates at La Masia, including names that would also make history like Cesc Fabregas, gradually understood that this quiet boy hid something within him that didn't have an easy name. It was talent, of course, but it was also a determination that was frightening. The period of restrictions lasted until February 2002, when Messi was finally registered with the Spanish Football Federation and cleared to play in all competitions. From then on, the floodgates were opened, and what followed was a series of performances that made it clear to everyone at Barcelona that this quiet boy was about to make a lot of noise. If you want to understand how Lionel Messi went from promising talent to absolute certainty at Barcelona, you need to know about the Baby Dream Team. That was the affectionate nickname given to the best generation of young players that La Masia had ever produced, a group of rare talents who played together with impressive synchronicity. And amidst all that quality, Messi stood out as if it were natural, as if the spotlight had been made especially for him. In the 2002 to 2003 season, his first full year playing in all competitions, Messi delivered numbers that would leave any scout in the world breathless. He scored 36 goals in just 30 games, an absurd average that left no room for doubt about what that boy was capable of. To put this in context, it's not just impressive for a youth team, it's impressive at any level of world football. What came the following season was even more surprising. Messi was so good that Barcelona started playing him in 6 different teams during the same season, from the youth teams to the most advanced groups, and he excelled in all of them without exception. Imagine the scene: a 15 or 16-year-old boy being moved between different teams and categories as if it were the most natural thing in the world, and delivering in all of them. It was as if football didn't have a high enough level to truly challenge him. There are moments in life when you feel you were being prepared for them long before you realized it. Lionel Messi's debut for Barcelona's first team was exactly one of those moments. He entered the field as a teenager, replacing none other than the legendary Deco, And in a few minutes, he made it clear to the Camp Nou fans that they were witnessing something they had never seen before. The Catalan fans didn't know it yet that day, but they were watching the first steps of a legend. But if there's one figure who was fundamental in making Messi feel at home in that locker room, that figure is Ronaldinho. The Brazilian, who was at that moment the best player in the world, could very well have ignored that quiet and shy boy who barely opened his mouth off the field. Instead, he did the opposite. He welcomed Messi, joked with him, trained alongside him, and treated him as an equal from day one. Ronaldinho's generosity is worth as much as any trophy in the history of football. On the field, the partnership between the two was mesmerizing to watch. Ronaldinho had a natural talent for spotting the space where Messi would appear, and Messi had a unique ability to be in exactly the right place at the right time. It's no coincidence that Ronaldinho provided the assist for Messi's first professional goal, a moment forever etched in the memory of those present in that stadium. It was as if the king was passing on the crown with a smile on his face. The friendship built between the two went beyond the pitch and remained strong even after Ronaldinho left Barcelona. Messi has always been generous in talking about the impact the Brazilian had on his development as a player and as a person. There's one game that every football fan knows, even if they haven't seen it live. It was in an El Clasico against Real Madrid in March 2007 that Lionel Messi made the world stop and truly pay attention. At just 19 years old, he scored a hat trick in a 3-3 draw, becoming the first player to achieve this feat in a Clasico between Barcelona and Real Madrid in over 50 years. It wasn't just a beautiful game. It was a formal announcement that a new era of football had begun. What made that performance even more impressive was the context. Barcelona was playing with 10 men, the pressure was enormous, and Real Madrid had one of the strongest squads in Europe at that time. And it was precisely in this adverse scenario that Messi chose to appear in the most overwhelming way possible, as if the difficulty were extra fuel for him. Anyone who watched that game left the stadium or the television with the certainty of having witnessed something historic. It was also around this time that comparisons with Diego Maradona began to truly gain traction in Argentina and around the world. Maradona was the ultimate symbol of Argentine football, an almost sacred figure for an entire generation, and placing the name of a 19-year-old alongside his was something few did lightly. But those who watched Messi play understood that the comparison wasn't an exaggeration. It was almost an obligation given what they were witnessing. If you want to understand what it means for a player to be at the absolute peak of their form, just revisit Pep Guardiola's Barcelona between 2009 and 2011. That team was a work of art in motion, playing football so beautiful and so efficient that experts still debate whether it was the best club in history. And at the center of it all, commanding, deciding, and enchanting, was Lionel Messi, as if Guardiola had built that entire system around a single genius. The 2009 Champions League final in Rome was the moment when Messi definitively presented his calling card to the world. In a match against Manchester United, he scored with a header, a goal that surprised even those who knew him well, since heading the ball had never been his specialty. But that's exactly what defines the greats. They find a way to decide the game regardless of the circumstances. Barcelona won 2-0 and took the Champions League with an authority that left no room for dispute. 2 years later, in 2011, history repeated itself with the same protagonist and an even more compelling plot. The final at Wembley against Manchester United was a football recital that even made Sir Alex Ferguson, one of the greatest managers in history, admit that there was no tactical answer to that Barcelona team. Messi was the maestro that night, dismantling one of the most organized defenses in Europe as if he were training on an empty field. The world paid homage, and the debate about who was the best on the planet was practically over. Years later, Guardiola would say in interviews that coaching Messi was the greatest stroke of luck in his coaching career. And looking at those two Champions League titles, it's easy to understand why. What that partnership produced on the pitch transcended football and entered the realm of pure art. Let's be honest, winning a Ballon d'Or is something most football players will never experience in their lives. It's the most coveted award in sports, the one that defines who is the best in the world for an entire season. Now imagine winning 4 in a row, one after the other, without giving anyone else a chance to breathe. That's exactly what Lionel Messi did between 2009 and 2012, setting a record that no one had ever achieved before in the history of world football. What makes this streak even more impressive is that it wasn't built on 1 or 2 isolated brilliant moments. Each Ballon d'Or from that period was underpinned by entire seasons of high-level performance, with goals, assists, titles, and performances that left opponents speechless. Messi wasn't just being the best, he was consistently being the best for years on end, which is a completely different category of excellence. It's the difference between having a perfect day and living a perfect life. At 25 years old, with 4 Ballon d'Or awards under his belt, Messi had already surpassed milestones that entire generations of players never came close to achieving. To put this in context, before this era led by Messi and his great rival, no player in history had won more than 3 Ballon d'Or awards throughout their entire career. And there was a young Argentinian breaking that record as if it were the most natural thing in the world, almost without making a fuss about it. There is a particular cruelty in being the best in the world and still not being able to deliver what your people most desire. This was Lionel Messi's reality for years, wearing the Argentina jersey, a jersey that weighed a ton even though it was made of lightweight fabric. While titles with Barcelona piled up at an impressive speed, the Argentine national team seemed to live in an endless cycle of lost finals and painful eliminations that tarnished the star's image in the eyes of his own compatriots. The 2015 Copa America was the first in a cruel sequence of lost finals. Argentina and Chile faced off in a penalty shootout, with Argentina emerging defeated. A year later, in the special centenary edition of the competition in the United States, the same opponents met again in the final, and the result was the same. Another penalty shootout defeat that left Messi emotionally devastated. 2 lost Copa America finals in 2 years, in addition to painful World Cup eliminations, created a cruel narrative that Messi simply couldn't be for Argentina what he was for Barcelona. What many people forgot in this analysis is that football is a team sport, and no player, however brilliant, can win alone. Maradona had a cohesive and competitive group around him in 1986, while Messi often carried an Argentina that depended too much on him and offered little in return. But the Argentine fans didn't care about context or technical analysis. They wanted the trophy, and while it didn't come, the pressure on the number 10 only increased. There are moments in life when pain speaks louder than reason, and that's exactly what happened to Lionel Messi in July 2016. Right after the defeat in the Copa America Centenario final against Chile, with his eyes still brimming with tears and his heart broken, Messi announced his retirement from the Argentine national team in front of cameras worldwide. It wasn't a calculated decision. It was a cry from someone who had reached the limit of what he could emotionally endure. The world of football stopped to process that news. Argentina's reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Fans took to the streets. Children wrote letters begging him to return. Hashtags flooded social media in Portuguese, Spanish, and English with messages of love and pleading. An 8-year-old boy named Tiago wrote a letter that went viral worldwide, saying that without Messi, the national team was nothing. It was impossible not to be moved by that scene, and one wonders if even Messi could remain indifferent upon reading those words. What happened in the following months was a silent transformation within Messi himself. He realized that retirement hadn't resolved the pain, only created a different kind of void. His love for the Argentine national team was too great to abandon in a decision made in the heat of defeat. And so, Without much fanfare, he reversed course, publicly acknowledged that he had spoken at the wrong time, and returned to the national team with a renewed determination that few expected to see. There are moments in sports that transcend the sport itself and become something greater, almost sacred. The 2021 Copa America was one of those moments for Lionel Messi and all of Argentina. The tournament was played in Brazil, in a complicated context due to the pandemic, with empty stadiums and an atmosphere unlike anything seen before. But none of that diminished the magnitude of what was about to happen in that unforgettable July. The final was played at the Maracanã, the most iconic stadium in South America, against Neymar's Brazil in the opponent's home. The setting couldn't have been more dramatic, and Messi entered the field carrying on his shoulders almost 30 years of an entire country's wait for a title with the national team. The goal came. Argentina won 1-0, and when the referee blew the final whistle, Messi fell to his knees on the Maracanã pitch in a scene that stopped the world. They were tears of relief, gratitude, and a joy that only those who have waited a long time for something can truly feel. What made that moment even more special was the historical weight it carried. Argentina hadn't won a title with its senior national team since 1993, and during that entire period Messi had been criticized and unfavorably compared to Maradona for failing to replicate his Barcelona performances on a national level. But that night at the Maracanã, all those criticisms dissolved into a collective embrace that united players, coaching staff, and an entire nation, even those separated by borders and time zones. There are farewells that we know will hurt a lot before they happen, and Lionel Messi's departure from Barcelona in 2021 was exactly that kind of farewell. After 21 years at the club, since he arrived as a 13-year-old boy with a contract written on a napkin, Messi found himself in a situation that no one expected and that many people still find hard to believe actually happened. Barcelona, one of the richest and most powerful clubs in the world, simply didn't have the financial means to keep the best player in its history. The Catalan club's financial crisis had reached a critical point, and the Spanish league's financial fair play rules prevented the renewal of the contract even though Messi was willing to accept a significant salary reduction. It was a Kafkaesque, almost absurd situation that exposed the complicated inner workings of modern football in a very stark way. The player who had given Barcelona 6 Ballon d'Or awards, 10 Spanish league titles, and 4 Champions League titles was being released not for sporting reasons, but because of spreadsheets and bureaucratic regulations. The press conference in which Messi announced his departure was one of the most emotional moments that football has ever produced off the pitch. He arrived trying to be professional and calm, but the tears came even before the first words, and there was a 34-year-old man crying like the 13-year-old boy who had arrived in that city decades ago. The whole world watched that scene and understood that it was real, that the Messi era at Barcelona had come to an end in the most unexpected way possible. Paris Saint-Germain was the chosen destination in a transfer that shook the football market, but which never seemed completely certain for either side involved. His time at the French club was discreet by Messi's standards, and it became increasingly clear that this chapter was a transition, not a destination. If you could choose a single game to represent everything that football is capable of producing in terms of emotion, drama, and beauty, the 2022 World Cup final between Argentina and France would be an absolutely unbeatable candidate. That match in Qatar had everything a cinematic script could wish for: twists and turns, tension, moments of individual genius, and a conclusion that made the whole world hold its breath until the very last second. And at the center of it all was Lionel Messi, as always, as if destiny had reserved that stage specifically for him. Argentina reached the final having convincingly dominated the tournament, and the match began exactly as the Albiceleste fans had dreamed, with a 2-goal lead and the title seeming a matter of time. But Kylian Mbappe's France was not willing to hand over the trophy without a fight. And within minutes, the young French striker scored 2 goals that tied the game and sent it into extra time. What followed was pure theatrics, with Messi scoring again, Mbappe responding with a historic hat trick, and the two teams going to penalties after one of the craziest games in football history. In the penalty shootout, goalkeeper Emiliano Martinez was the hero Argentina needed, saving decisive shots that paved the way for the title. And when the final penalty went in and the referee confirmed what everyone already knew, Messi ran onto the field with an expression that mixed joy, relief, and a profound gratitude that words can hardly describe. He had won the World Cup, the only trophy missing from a career that was already considered the greatest in football history even before that night. Who said that the story of a legend has to end in Europe? Lionel Messi arrived at Inter Miami in 2023 and did exactly what he does everywhere he goes. He transformed everything around him. Major League Soccer, which many people still saw as a league for retirees, suddenly became a global phenomenon. Packed stadiums, record audiences, and an interest in soccer in the United States that had never even come close to that level. Messi didn't go to play in MLS to rest. He went to conquer yet another territory that hadn't yet been his. At 38 years old, he remains the most dominant and highest-paid player in the league, with numbers that would put athletes 20 years younger to shame. This season, he's already racking up goals and assists at a rate that seems to defy the laws of physics and time. Inter Miami, once better known for its owner David Beckham than for its on-field results, has become a true powerhouse of American soccer with Messi wearing the pink and red jersey. And that story about the napkin in Barcelona seems distant, but his instinct to win remains exactly the same. But what's really stirring the football world right now is the possibility of Messi playing in the 2026 World Cup, which will be held in the United States, Mexico, and Canada. He was included in Argentina's preliminary list of 55 players submitted to FIFA in May 2026, and if he confirms his presence, he will become the first player in history to participate in 6 World Cups. Argentina arrives at the tournament as the reigning world champion, with Messi feeling lighter, less pressured, and having accomplished his mission in 2022, giving him a freedom he has never had before in any World Cup. And this is where Lionel Messi's story gains its deepest meaning for anyone watching. Because he teaches us that there's no right age to keep pursuing what you love, that the greatest chapters of life are sometimes written when everyone else expected the end. From the frail boy from Rosario who didn't grow to the man who conquered everything football has to offer, Messi is living proof that giving up should never be an option. And as long as he still has the strength to run on a football field, the world will continue to stop and watch. If this story inspired you, if you left here with a new spark in your heart, then do yourself a favor and subscribe to the channel now. Turn on notifications because there's much more content like this coming. Stories that will make you think, motivate you, and remind you that human beings are capable of much more than they imagine when they decide to go all the way. See you in the next video.